Before I get into the main topic for this video, I'd just like to take a moment and thank everybody who watched and commented and participated in the discussion of my original video that I posted, that this video is a follow-up to. I really had no clue that that video would pop off as much as it did, so thank you guys for all the support and all of the feedback. If you're watching this video and haven't watched the original video that this is a follow-up to, I highly recommend watching that first and then coming back and watching this video afterwards. I really wanted to make this video to address some of the things that I either forgot to mention or didn't feel it was worth mentioning in the original video. Apologies for not getting this response out sooner. I would have if I was able to. I actually picked kind of a stupid time to release the original video. I actually was in the middle of a cross-country move for a new job right as I released that video. I had the video complete for several weeks, but just needed to finish editing some things, which I hadn't gotten around to, and I had finished it right before I went on the move, so I decided to just put it out anyway, not anticipating the response it would get. So thank you guys once again for that, and I am now set up mostly and can actually do this response in a more controlled environment. With that intro out of the way, we can now actually get on to responding to some of the comments. The first one here says, the problem I saw that everyone wants to fight and no one wants to do logistics, 90% of recent games, lost in the first 15 minutes because there's only one hab and nothing else. Hab gets destroyed, points got captured without any resistance, majority of the team was somewhere near enemy main, and they normally blame the faction at the end of the game. I feel like this has always been a problem with Squad. Like, I know a lot of the feedback to just there's any problems that it's always been a problem is not very helpful, but this one has a lot of merit to. I think it's always kind of been a problem that people don't want to do logistics, but not to the degree that it is now. Back when I started playing this game, or even was several years into playing this game, there was people who would dedicate their whole nights to just driving Logi trucks. We notoriously had a guy in our group who hasn't played in several years, but he used to be the guy who just wanted to drive Logis all game and resupply your habs and resupply your fobs and get new habs up. Shout out to Wheatbix if you're watching. This is another problem where it's a mindset thing. People don't come into the game wanting to do team play like that anymore. Someone could still totally do that, what I just described. Drive around Logis, be helpful, but just asking someone to do a Logi run these days is like pulling teeth compared to what it used to be. People used to be way more willing to do Logi runs. People used to be way more willing to do logistics than what they do today. And so you have nobody actually placing these halves because no one wants to drive a Logi. And there's a lot of compounding factors here. One of them is that so many of the layers now only have 2 Logis, unless you do a logistics faction, or I believe there's one other type of faction that gets 3 Logis. You only get 2. So it's already now cutting down a third of the potential logistics you have. So let's say, just like a game I played the other night, example here, somebody drives the Logi into a point, dies with it, and now we can't recover that Logi. And we have the second Logi being used by a squad who's off in the middle of nowhere and is refusing to come help even after being asked by multiple squads in the game. So now you have 2 Logis that you can't get anywhere, and you're handicapping a team. Obviously that can happen with 3 Logis as well, but the more Logis you add, the less likely that is to happen. So already you're cutting your possible logistics down by a third, plus the unwillingness of people in this version of Squad to actually want to do logistics, you're not getting habs up. I feel like OWI need to do some sort of rework to make doing logistics either more important or to make it easier. Now, I'm not saying that they should totally overhaul the current system. It's worked for years and it used to be completely fine. I just think that maybe add 3 Logis back to most factions. Maybe have less tracked Logi specific factions. I don't want to do a Logi run when I'm playing VDV because the Logi, it goes 20 miles an hour, and on a big map it'll take me 20 minutes just to drive one way back to main before taking another 20 minutes to drive back the other way. Now that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but it feels like that. Why would I want to do a Logi run if the vehicle I'm doing it in is probably going to take just as much time to get back and for the game to be over for me to just do it anyway? Additionally, people don't pick heli-focused unit types anymore. I realize I've been saying factions instead of unit types. I mean unit types when you're voting for a unit type at the end screen. But they don't pick helo-focused unit factions anymore. They will always prioritize the armored ones, so you only get armored factions. So one, you don't get a lot of helos, and when you do get helos, pilots these days are very hit or miss if they actually want to do logistics for you or not. It used to be a lot more common that people would actually want to do logistics, and that problem is partially due to squad leads not asking for it, but there's also a lack of willingness on the helo pilot's part for he would rather go scout for armor or harass logistics or do something else rather than actually do the logistics for the team. And I can't blame the helo pilots a lot of times because they're worried if they do it without being asked to go and resupply a fob that they're going to run into armor that isn't marked or just not communicated. So it's a lot of compounding factors, but can be very easily addressed by just re-adding some features that were already in the game that OWI removed for various reasons over the years. So getting back to the comment, there is kind of a point that people have by blaming the faction, but not in the way that they're saying that it's the faction's fault. It might be the faction's fault partially just because they did tracked lodges or they did a faction without more lodges, causing people not wanting to do logistics because the options suck. But that's more of a mindset problem rather than a faction problem overall. Another addition to the problem of we can't change that directly, but more in indirect ways, which I will get more into in other comments of the video. All right, next comment. You can't teach someone that doesn't want to learn. No tutorial, no promotion, no videos will fix this. I don't think the devs play their game nor have a passion for it, so there's a fundamental disconnect. The biggest problem is Squad has an arcadey respawn system. Some games of Invasion can have 300 to 600 people get killed and give up in a single match. That's a 3 to 12 respawn average per person. I've seen some go over 20. There's little incentive to stay alive. There's no incentive to listen to your SL and play as a unit. You can use your magical side stream map to see everyone in real time. You have all the tools to play selfishly and out of meta the game. If you want to play hat kit, you can just run towards an enemy armor marker and ignore your SL. If you die, you only have 10 more tries. What could go wrong? Now, I feel like this is kind of a two-layered comment here for two of the things I kind of like to talk about. The first one is the player base that you can't teach someone that doesn't want to learn. I agree to this to a certain extent. Like, yes, there's some people, even when I mentioned in the original video how a lot of people come from these arcade shooters these days and play Squad because there isn't good alternatives in the FPS market right now. And so a lot of people come in without the actual knowledge of what Squad at least was originally meant to play like, and they just want to do their own thing. They don't care to learn. That does suck. And there are a lot of people like that that will just act in that sort of attitude. But at the end of the day, those people, the vast majority of the time, will play the game a couple hours, realize that it isn't the experience that they want from it, and then not play the game again. Those people you can't really help. If they're not going to listen, if they're not going to play the game, there's not much you can do. What it is a failure of is OWI's marketing, in terms of actually marketing Squad as a more tactical experience where you should prioritize the team over yourself. By the end of the day, that still isn't going to stop somebody who maybe just doesn't have all the context and hasn't looked into the game too much. However, I do feel like there is a large amount of people that can be taught, that it is a thing where a lot of people may join the game with that initial attitude, but if they realize the game is actually something completely different, they might be interested in learning. And the tools not being there for people to effectively teach other people, or just for those people to figure it out themselves, minus going to YouTube and looking at a bunch of tutorial guides, which back when I started playing Squad, that was pretty common. I watched a lot of SL tutorials when I started to learn how to SL, because I had that attitude of, well, I wanted to get better and I wanted to figure out this game. But you can't expect the average player to do their own research outside the game in order to get better. You would hope that there is a ground system in the game for those players to be onboarded in a better experience. And for years and years, it was always just we onboard the new players as a community. But the community is so small in terms of experience and so lack thereof of the experience that we had years ago, that the percentage of players that a new player is going to run into that actually know how to play the game is significantly less than what it used to be. So even if there is a significant amount of experienced players that want to teach people how to play the game, there still just isn't the framework that they used to be. And OWI should compensate for that by actually making a better tutorial. So while no tutorial, no promotion will directly fix some people's really bad attitudes, that isn't the majority of people who are coming in to play the game. And while the better promotion will stop a significant amount of people that have the wrong mindset, or at least a number of people who have the wrong mindset, and new tutorials will help improve some people's understanding of what the game actually is and what you're supposed to do to the game, is a much better improvement than having nothing at all, than our current system, where we have a lackluster tutorial that by many people I've asked who are new and have played the tutorial for the first time doesn't explain anything, or at least anything significant other than what your average FPS experience is. So there needs to be at least some sort of better framework. I'm going to agree with you that yes, there's some people whose attitudes are just that bad that you're not going to fix. But if you can at least change a fraction of that number, it will eventually improve the community, because people who are bad and who are going to have that bad mindset are likely not going to stick with the game for a significant period of time. Now, going on to the next section of this comment about how Squad has gotten arcadey, it has an arcadey respawn system and all of that. This is very game mode dependent in my opinion. I think Squad can play significantly different. Yes, in Invasion, when you have plenty of tickets as a defending force, you're kind of supposed to throw your body in there. That's a lot of the time how you actually stop the enemy forces, is making these kind of risky, ballsy plays, and you play as a insurgent force that's just doing these kind of sparse attacks that just annoy people even though you're losing tickets doing it. At least that's the original intent behind it. This is a problem of just Squad not having more game modes that cater to players that want to play the game in a less arcadey experience. If there was actual more hardcore game modes, like I know there's been mods for in the past, that would probably be a great solution to this. You could play on a game mode that doesn't have map icons for every single player, but just the SLs. You could play on a game mode that has significantly longer respawn times, or has habs that you have to place significantly further apart from each other, that reworks the way that rallies work to make it more difficult to move around in a quick manner. I know a lot of Squad players wouldn't like this, but that's why it should be a game mode. You already have RAS only servers, you already have Invasion only servers. So if you are going to want to make more game modes to satisfy more people who want to play the game in a different experience, I say let them. So yes, I agree that there are some flaws in Squad's current system, but me personally, I do like the general flow of the gameplay. It has the more milsim-y effects that you don't get in Battlefield, but it doesn't have the endless running simulator all the time that you get in Arma. Now there's exceptions to both of these, and I probably offended a lot of people by summarizing those two games in those two sentences, but that's just how I feel about it. And I feel like a lot of other people feel the same way, which is why they continue to play Squad rather than Battlefield or Arma. Additionally, this is something that OWI could actually just give admins the tools to turn off certain features on their servers to cater it to more either hardcore experiences or casual experiences. OWI has just not given admins the proper tools to effectively moderate and change the experiences on their servers. So many of the best admin tools that are there right now in Squad are made by plugins by modders. That should not have to be the case. Server operators are the lifeblood of Squad right now. They are the people that make or break the experience. They're the admins that can abuse their power and ruin your day. They're the ones that can make fair, comprehensive rules that can make your server experience really good and make the server environment awesome. And they don't have the tools to effectively make this experience better. Instead, they have to either make it themselves or just don't have it at all, and so you just get a worse experience overall. And then you can't do stuff like make a more hardcore Squad where you're dead if you get shot at all, or your respawn timer is longer, or your respawn timer is shorter, and you have faster movement, and you don't die to falling off a ledge that is a couple inches high. There's very subtle things that they could do to make the experience better by giving some tools to server operators to cater unique experiences that they don't right now, which is a shame because I think there's a massive opportunity to make everybody's experience better here just by doing a few simple things and improving the admin tools for a server. All right, next comment. Really good points about COD and Battlefield being so bad that the kids are coming over to play Squad. Thank you. I also really hate the voting. Most people don't know what a faction has in it, and they just see armor or PMC and then scream it into the mic until other robots vote for it. You end up playing the same maps over and over again with horribly suited factions, only to end up with a squad leader that doesn't want to be squad leader, but all the other squads are half full and locked. I actually made a whole video about this whole map voting problem. I can link it down in the description below, but a lot of the points I made in that video can boil down to something like this. Map voting, the initial idea of it is very good. It gives players the opportunity for more unique experiences on the same layers we've been playing for years, but its implementation was made in a way that causes the gameplay to become stale. OWI limited the amount of RAS and invasion layers significantly when they implemented this update. So you get the same few layers, and then when the server rotation doesn't have a diverse enough input on the voting screen, you get the same few faction options every single time. and some factions are just significantly better than other ones, so they'll be voted for every time. And the whole thing about everyone just screaming at the end screen, screaming the loudest actually works a lot of the time, which is just ridiculous. And the guys I play with have even done multiple different things, such as like lying about the compositions that we want, making them seem way better than others just so people will vote for them. And that works too, because no one knows what they're picking, because the actual little icon to see the layout is so small and no one ever checks it. Servers with fixed rotations are few and far between these days, and can also be just as boring sometimes if they don't change the rotation enough. So in my opinion, there needs to be some sort of middle ground here that hopefully can be worked out with some of the solutions I said in the other video, but it kind of just comes down to OWI reworking the system, giving admins more control over what can be put in the voting screen, and diversify the amount of layers and factions that can be in a rotation at once. Also, I do agree that so many squads are locked, or just blueberry squads have just nobody talking in them. I'm guilty of, I don't play squad without friends these days. I used to years ago play squad alone all the time on my favorite servers, and it was a really good time, but these days it's very rare that you actually do get a good group of blueberries in a squad, whether you're leading it or you're just in it. So I can't blame people for not wanting to play the game while they're a solo anymore, because the experience can just be brutal of just bad teammates, no one communicating, and then the people who do want to communicate lock their squad because they're so burned on just getting bad teammates and blueberries all the time that they just want to play with their friends. This kind of just comes back to the community mindset thing, and getting people actually more experience in the game and having the community mindset shift back to what it used to be, versus this kind of independent, I play for myself, not the team, than what we used to have. Next one. I miss OP First Light so much. It was great for lower pops to fill the server and fun light vehicle drive-bys. I agree so much. I used to love that map back in the day. No idea really why they decided to remove it from just a content perspective. I know the excuse that some of them gave was that it was too small of a map and was too old of assets that they didn't want to have it in the game still, based on the way they were going with the game. OWI remastered and redesigned several maps in Squad's lifetime. A smaller map like OP First Light, you could have added on just a little bit more to the map and just redesigned a couple of things, and I think it could have lasted much longer. No idea why they didn't just do that. Maybe one day they'll bring it back. There was a rumor going around, I believe, when they originally made the tutorial, that the tutorial was actually made on OP First Light, that they like placed it over the existing map assets. Not sure if that's any merit to that, but I guess it's kind of a cool nod. It's still technically in the game if that's true. But yeah, bring back OP First Light, man. Next one. As a person who used to play Hell Let Loose, leaving after the devs prioritized cosmetics and bland open maps, never addressing the 80% win rate that allies have, and terrible optimization, I understand seeing a game fall, but it can still be popular with a different audience that it wasn't originally meant for. I think Hell Let Loose is the greatest case study for what we really don't want Squad to turn into. Granted, Hell Let Loose already had a lot more arcadey gunplay and play styles, I think, from the start than Squad has, but it's really not that far off. I used to play Hell Let Loose semi-frequently. I always thought it was a fun game, but also I would play it for a more casual experience. Like if I didn't want to play as intense as Squad, but also didn't want to play like a Battlefield game and just kind of run around and do whatever and have some semblance of teamwork, I would play Hell Let Loose. And they have some really cool maps and cool content there, but just the whole kind of more favored towards casual players is just not what I want for Squad, nor any games such as Squad 44. And I much prefer playing Squad 44 over Hell Let Loose just because it's similar systems to Squad and less arcadey features. And it's sad to see the game deteriorate with the features catered to more of these casual audiences, and it just is obvious that it didn't work out for it. Sure, there's actually a rather large console market for Hell Let Loose now because of these features, but if you just look at Steam charts and compare the two games, there's 10,000 30-day average players that play Squad. There's under 4,000 that play Hell Let Loose on Steam. I think the numbers show for themselves how people feel about how changing a game's focus midway through development to feature a more arcadey experience can really kill the game for most of the original player base. Next one. This one features a timestamp that is me talking about how you don't see people teaching others how to play the game as much anymore as you used to. He says, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Also, you can take people into the training ranges and fully teach them about the game. You do with what you have. As I said in the original video, I've played the game since 2017, so I'm not trying to say that my experience overcomes everybody else's, but myself and the vast majority of people that I've played with, when I ask them about things like this, overwhelmingly agree that they don't see this anymore. We as a squad will have maybe like 6 or 7 people in a call together playing, and we'll have 2 to 3 blueberries in the squad with us. When they ask us questions or tell us that they're new and need help with stuff, we try and help the best as we can, but these days it's really hard to baby these people into learning these steps when there's so many people in any given squad that don't know what they're doing. And it's not that we don't want to help them or that we're trying to be selfish, it's just every single game. If I have to spend every single game telling the blueberries in my squad how to play the game rather than me being able to play it myself, that shouldn't be the squad experience. I don't play squad to teach new players how to play the game. I play squad to play it myself, and sure, I am more than happy to help out somebody who tells me that they don't know what they're doing and want some help with stuff and walk them through it, especially if they're willing to learn, but it shouldn't be my job to do so. And so I feel like a lot of people share this same sentiment. They'll help out where they can, but they're not going to go out of their way to teach every new player how to play the game. I had to learn to play the game myself, and it was through the help of other players, but it wasn't through the help of one singular player, and it was through the experience of a lot of mistakes and a lot of failed ideas about how the game should be played. So yes, I might not be in a blueberry squad by myself all the time witnessing people teach each other how to play the game, but just seeing stuff in local about how clueless so many people are about just very basic things that used to be commonplace years ago, you do not see people saying that anymore. I very rarely hear people in local asking questions and stuff. The only times I really ever hear it is in squad chat, and even that is very rare. And I remember being newer to the game. I remember then also being experienced in the game after a couple of years playing it. But people still asked questions way more, and we're still teaching each other way more than you are now. So yes, I do agree that it is happening to an extent, but not to the degree it used to be happening. And also this point about taking people into the training ranges, I mean, yeah, if I have a friend that I want to teach to play the game, I'm going to take him into a training range and show him stuff if he wants, but like, I'm not going to go out of my way to invite some random blueberry onto a training range. Also, the point about the training range, you can't go on a training range together with another person in a server unless you join someone else's server on the custom server browser. There are plenty that are just sitting there empty on Jensen's range that you can't go in, but it's very inconvenient, and sometimes other people can join and then ruin the teaching experience by doing other things. There's not actual like cooperative buddy teaching feature that OWI has in the game. You have to use somebody else's server or buy your own server in order to do that, which shouldn't be the case if you actually want to take somebody into the training range, and it's very inconvenient. So the whole point about make with what you have, I mean, yeah, we've been doing that for years, but it shouldn't have to be that way. There's very simple little things that OWI could implement in the game to make this experience better for everybody, and I don't think just accepting that it just sucks and that we should embrace it is a good mentality when it totally can be fixed if they put the effort into fixing it. It's kind of the same tune of several comments on the original video of, I'm whining, why do I care? If there's so many problems, just go play another game, don't do this. I've been playing Squad for this many years. It is my favorite game. I'm complaining because I love the game. I have so much fond memories of the game. I know how the game should be played. I've met so many cool people playing the game. I want it to be successful so that so many other people can share those same experiences that I've had for years and years to come. So no, I'm not just gonna sit here quietly and let it deteriorate without saying anything. I'm going to do my best to try and convince people that it should be better and that we should support OWI and implement these things that make it better rather than just letting it deteriorate and being like, well, I guess we'll work with what we got. And hopefully I can encourage other people to try and be better squad mates and try and be more helpful to new players. Because while I'm saying that I shouldn't be expected to help new players every match, people should still be willing to help where they can, and people who have experience should be willing to share that experience and not just shoot down every time someone says they're a new player because you don't want to help them. While I do agree it is mostly an OWI problem, it has gotten to this point, we can still affect it as a community and should try our best to be better for the community. Next comment. Hot take, new players are just as bad as they ever were. You being a veteran player have improved, and therefore the gap between you and new players has grown. I can agree with your argument to a certain extent. Obviously that's going to be with any game you play. As you start to get better, you kind of get up on that bell curve and realize how bad people are that are newer than you. But I was an experienced player years ago. I had several thousand hours when Squad released as a full game into V1. I was experienced back then and have noticed a deterioration from then to now. And if anything, I've only gotten worse because the quality of Squad itself has gotten worse. So I play worse or do worse tactics because the players themselves have lowered that skill gap. And I've noticed it more than ever. I used to be able to bear with the bad people back then a lot more than I do now. There felt like a more willingness of the people that played the game back then to get with the program that is current Squad gameplay then than there is now. The onboarding process now is exponentially worse because back then we had less new players that were coming in and not knowing how to play than we do now. We have more players than ever, but less experience than ever. And a lot of comments that were on the video, I've kind of purposely not mentioned this just because I think it deserves a whole nother video in itself, is talking about the ICO. Now, just from the comments on the video, you can see that people have so many divisive opinions on the ICO. One comment will be praising it and saying that them nerfing it was the reason that Squad has gotten worse recently, while the other will blame it for ruining a lot of different things about Squad. I lean more towards the latter argument. So many experienced players that were so used to this fundamental system that Squad had in the game for years were now on the same page as every new player in the book of having to learn this new system and don't want to play anymore. So you have a bunch of people who are newer to the game who don't know what the old system was, who are happy because they can just learn the system same as everyone else. And then you have experienced players who are used to this system and now have to relearn a system that is frustrating and not fun to deal with, that don't want to play anymore. I don't think ICO had as big of an impact on the player base of the game as some people let on, but it did have a significant effect. I know several people who have dropped the game since the ICO released and never came back, who had thousands of hours and some of the best Squad players I knew. So yes, it's a lot of compounding factors, but I totally do not agree with the opinion that just because I'm a veteran player now, that players are just worse in my opinion. I was a veteran player years ago and it was not this bad. So while yes, when I was in 2017 and I thought everyone was crazy good at the game versus when I was in 2020 and had thousands of hours and thought everyone was decent, mediocre, and now I'm in 2025 and have thousands of hours and think everyone is pretty bad on average, there was definitely a decrease in experienced players and quality people who want to play the game than there was back then. I can say that for certain. Alright, this video is already way longer than it was supposed to be, so last question here. The strangest thing about the tutorial is that Squitters created bots for Squad, a huge opportunity for a new tutorial to be made. But no, OWI are too lazy/incompetent to create a new tutorial in years and then just use UE5 as an excuse for every problem of UE4 that is not relevant. Yeah, this is a bit of an odd one for me. I played a lot of the Zeus mod when it came out, which was basically paired along with the Squad Bots mod, and it was awesome. I mean, it had so many unique, awesome scenarios that you could do. It had so much potential. I was super happy when OWI actually bought the mod and hired Squitters on, because I thought they were going to do a lot more with it. It's been at least over a year at this point, and nothing has come of it at all other than adding bots to seeding, which, yeah, was a really helpful little addition, but like, why not anything else? There's so much potential with this mod. You can create so many other game modes, you can create so many other scenarios, you can make Zeus an official part of Squad, which would bring on a whole nother community, but they've just kind of let it sit, which I just find really odd. And while the bots were really fun and there was a lot of opportunity, they do still need quite a bit of work. And while I don't know if they're being worked on behind the scenes right now still, I hope they are, because it's so much potential. It's just something that OWI bought and then left. Now, once again, it might be just another thing that they're waiting for the UE5 to release before they do anything with it, but it wasn't on that recent roadmap that they just put out, so I don't know what their plan is with them. If they're just content with buying the bots for the seeding and then just leaving it, which is really disappointing because it's a thing that they bought, it's a thing that they own, and it has so much potential, and they've just kind of let it sit and not done anything with it. Squad hasn't gotten a major update since October of last year with the PMC faction. There's been a few minor updates since then, but nothing that crazy. I know they're very much bottlenecked right now with not being able to release anything since the UE5 update just got delayed. But in retrospect, I don't know if at least upgrading as soon as they did, was a great idea. It has just killed good squad matches and the player base during this time that nothing has been done. As unfortunate as it is, some of the best squad gameplay I get is right after a new update because so many people return to the game and there's something fun, new, and relevant to play. It has just been so boring recently and it has really killed my motivation to play squad. So I really hope they get this out fast, and I appreciate that they delayed it just because of bugs with the engine, and they're hopefully not going to release it with a ton of problems like they sometimes do with their updates, but it just seems in retrospect that it wasn't actually that great of an idea if it's just done the damage that it currently has done to squad. I sincerely hope the best for squad's future, and I think that if they can square out a lot of the new player onboarding and get some actual new content that is good for the player base rather than just factions, which the two main things they released on the new roadmap was that they're adding 2 new factions and no maps. But hey, at least we get a TC rework. That was about due like 2 years ago, but it's nice that they're getting around to it. But the ball really is in OWI's court if they want to focus on actually making the game last with quality players for a long time, or just kind of sell out to the arcade audience and let it kind of go down this Hell Let Loose-esque route. Time will tell, but I'm optimistic for the future. Thank you all for all the support on the original video. Thanks for, if you're still at this point in the video, listening to me ramble for a half an hour. Appreciate you guys. I got other ideas and videos that are hopefully going to be in the works. And if you see me in squad, feel free to say hi. I'll still be playing the game, even in its current state. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.